2 million years ago, the sinister secrets of how haunted prehistoric humans found food in a day. Claire Harris felt the oppressive weight of night settle in. The clock ticked toward her shift at the local convenience store, every tick echoing the mounting dread creeping from the fringes of her suburban life. Shadows danced beyond her window, taking on a life of their own, where rustling leaves and distant howls conjured tales of bygone horrors clawing at her mind. Just past the lush lawns that carpeted her Missouri neighborhood lay a dark, foreboding mass of woods rumored to house spirits of the dead. Underneath the calm surface of suburban civility, something thrived, something primal and hungry. As she glanced outside, she noticed the neighborhood's dogs barking furiously at the tree-line. Squirrels chattered wildly, their tiny bodies twitching in a frenzy. Even the deer, usually undisturbed, stood frozen, wide-eyed and trembling, mesmerized by an unseen terror. Claire's heart sank. She had heard the whispers, the rumors that echoed from parent to parent, children vanishing, pets turning up dead, tales of ancient rituals kept alive by those who lived here before them. Mom, Jake, her ever-curious son, rushed in from the backyard, baseball cap askew. Did you see them? The deer? They were just staring. It's weird, right? His innocent excitement twisted into something unsettling in her gut. Yeah, it sounds strange, she replied, dismissing the darkened thoughts blossoming in her mind. Instead, she tried to adjust to the idea of another unbearable night behind the register. Feeling the burden of the world pressing heavier on her shoulders as she prepared for work, Claire's phone buzzed incessantly with texts from concerned neighbors. A child had gone missing. Pets had come up dead with no explanation. Just typical small-town hysteria, Claire thought, gritting her teeth. Yet, as she looked out the window to find the Thompsons scanning the yard, their smiles now twisted, she felt an instinctive prickle at the nape of her neck. Their eyes lingered a little too long on Jake, and the kindness they wore like a mask sent a chill down her spine. Minutes later, Claire took a quick trip with Jake to the park. The air grew heavy, and as they walked, shadows loomed ominously over them. When she turned to check on him, panic knotted her stomach. Jake was gone. Jake, she called, heart racing as she sprinted toward the woods. The trees loomed tall and dense, the atmosphere charged with an unsettling energy. Creeping through the trees, she stumbled across bizarrely symmetrical pathways entwined with roots, old glyphs carved into the bark seeming to pulse with life. Claire's breath hitched as worry morphed into sheer terror. These woods were not just overgrown, they were alive and watching. Whispers slithered between the branches, sounding too familiar, too dark. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as Claire caught a glimpse of Jake's baseball cap caught in a nearby tree's branches, an icy breeze coursed through the clearing, giving her the sensation of being ensnared. The whispers grew louder, morphing into a cacophony of laughter. Mom, she half expected to hear Jake's voice, but only silence taunted her in return. That gnawing feeling in the pit of her stomach mirrored her racing heart. What secrets lay in these woods? What grip did her neighbors have on this haunted land? As shadows swirled around her, Claire realized the darkness wasn't just ancient. It was present, stalking, yearning to claim what it had lost. She hesitated, standing at a crossroad of fear and hope as the darkness enveloped her. What would she sacrifice to find her son? Claire held her breath, searching the abyss, knowing she must choose her path. Claire's instincts screamed at her to turn back, to retreat from the suffocating shadows that loomed like hungry predators. But the sight of the baseball cap, bright and disheveled against the gnarled branches, felt like an anchor pulling her deeper into the unknown. She reached for it, trembling fingers brushing against the coarse fabric. Jake! The name cut through the silence, hollow and desperate, echoing back to her as if the woods mocked her cries. The laughter intensified, a chorus of shrill glee that sent jolts of fear spiraling through her chest. Claire staggered back, pressing her palm against the rough bark of a nearby tree for support. The ground beneath her trembled as unseen things shifted in the darkness. She glimpsed fleeting figures darting between the trees, half-formed shadows that vanished the instant she turned her head. Her eyes darted around, searching for any sign of her son. "Please, Jake." The air felt thick, stinging her throat, wrapping around her like a noose. A chill sprang up from the earth, swirling around her legs, feeling almost tangible. She shuddered, sensing something ancient and vicious lurking, its intent hidden but potent enough to draw a whisper of terror from the depths of her mind. Then, amidst the clamor of laughter, Claire heard a distant, soft whimpering breaking through the din, like a candle flickering in the dark. Hope surged, pushing her into motion. She moved cautiously, her heart drumming violently against her ribs. She followed the sound, each footfall heavy with dread and desperation. The laughter had receded, fading into the shadows that seemed to breathe in synchrony with her growing fear. "Jake!" she called again, voice trembling. Each syllable echoed eerily, swallowed by the consuming darkness. The trees began to close in on her, towering and twisted, their bark slick with ancient moisture. She stumbled upon a clearing, a strange circle marked with the old glyphs etched into the soft earth, glinting subtly in the brief flashes of moonlight. This must be a place of significance, a space steeped in unspeakable rituals and dread. In the center lay a small, ragged doll, its glassy eyes reflecting her own frantic expression, a grotesque testament to the lives once claimed here. Just beyond it, a low murmur pulsed in the ground, beckoning her to listen closer. "Jake!" Her voice broke, fear rippling through her. She took a step back, the reality of her surroundings becoming unbearably acute. Suddenly, the trees around the clearing quivered as if animated by some unseen force. Claire's breath caught in her throat. She turned, ready to flee, but a figure emerged from the tree-line, a silhouette draped in darkness, impossibly still, yet palpably alive. A flash of anxiety pierced her. The figure stepped closer, and Claire's heart raced as she felt the tension of its presence, heavy and pressing like a weight on her chest. The moonlight illuminated the horror. It wasn't just a figure. It was another person, a woman with hollow eyes and a too-wide grin, staring directly at her. "They're waiting, you know," she whispered, voice smooth like silk but filled with malice. "They always wait, and they're very hungry." Claire staggered, her mind racing. What did she mean? Who were they? And more importantly, where was Jake? The woods felt alive, pulsating with a malevolent undercurrent threatening to pull her under. She fought to remain grounded, though the woman's gaze bore down on her, igniting the fear that clawed at her insides. She had to get to Jake before whatever spirit claimed him became something far worse. Mustering all the courage she had, Claire made her choice. She turned and bolted deeper into the woods, propelled by sheer terror. The shadows stretched long and claw-like, grasping at her as she ran, each footfall echoing the rhythm of a heartbeat. She couldn't look back. She wouldn't look back. Yet, as she pressed on, a creeping doubt seeped into her mind. Would the darkness allow her to escape? In that moment, as the trees closed in again, she realized she might not be the one running. From the dark, something was hunting her, and claws were closing in around her sanity. Would she find Jake, or had he already become a part of the forest's ancient appetite? The whispers returned, louder and more insistent, as Claire stumbled into a deeper abyss of despair and uncertainty. Claire's breath came in ragged gasps as she plunged deeper into the suffocating woods. Panic gripped her heart, tightening around it like a vice. Every snap of a twig beneath her feet felt like a warning shot, punctuating the already thick air with dread. She fought the urge to call out again, fearing that each word would draw the darkness closer. Yet the silence felt worse, an ominous void that could swallow her whole. Branches scraped against her skin, sharp as knives, and the mist seemed to swirl with intent, curling around her ankles like a coiling snake. Shadows whispered in her ears, their words slithering away before she could make sense of them. Where was Jake? Anxiety gnawed at her mind like a predator savoring its prey. She could almost hear the laughter again, echoing in the distance, taunting her. Navigating through the underbrush, she stumbled, arms flailing as she fought to regain her balance. A shadow flashed in her periphery, darting from one tree to the next, and her heart dropped into her stomach. "What are you?" She gasped into the void, but the woods remained unresponsive. The only answer was the growing cacophony of whispers that seemed to emerge from the very ground beneath her feet. The air grew colder as a chill wrapped around her body, pulling her back. Claire froze. A bone-deep realization crept into her mind. This wasn't a simple search for her son. She wasn't just deep in the woods. She was stepping into a realm governed by something far more sinister than she ever imagined. As she took another faltering step, she felt the ground tremble beneath her, as if it were responding to her presence. The whispers increased, a frenzy of sound and movement surrounding her. With every passing second, the shadows thickened, merging into a swirling black mass that pulsed with an unholy energy. Claire covered her ears, but the noise seeped into her mind in a way she couldn't block out. The laughter morphed into howling, a tormenting wind that swept through the trees. "Jake!" she screamed, her voice breaking, splintered with fear. Then she felt a tug at her sleeve, faint but unmistakable. Hope ignited briefly in her chest, but it was quickly snuffed out by a rush of cold air that sent shivers down her spine. Before she could react, a dark figure lunged from behind a tree, obstacle course of branches snapping like dry twigs. It was the woman again, eyes glinting with wicked glee. "They don't want you to leave," she shouted, her grin stretching wider, revealing teeth that seemed to glisten with drool. "You're all part of the feast now." Claire recoiled, every instinct screaming at her to run, but the female figure reached out, long, bony fingers brushing against Claire's arm. A shocking jolt slammed through her, flooding her with images, fragments of ancient rituals, countless sacrifices, laughter morphing into screams. She gasped as a wave of memory crashed over her, dark and suffocating. Tearing herself away from that horrific vision, Claire stumbled backward, desperate to escape the nightmare chasing her. The forest shifted around her, paths obscured and deceptive. Each turn she took only led her deeper into a labyrinth designed to confuse and trap, but the real horror awaited. A distant, echoing call pierced the air, unmistakably Jake's voice, filled with terror and anguish. "Mommy!" It rang out like a beacon, pulling Claire towards the edge of madness. She had to find him. She had to push through the terror, no matter the cost. She fled toward the sound. The path grew darker, whispers blending with the cries of the lost. A shadow flickered just ahead, and Claire's heart raced as the ground beneath her burst forth in a thick fog, curling like a claw, threatening to bring her down into its depths. "Jake!" she cried again, aware that she might be drawing closer to something she could never escape. The laughter returned, louder now than before, and she whipped around, searching for the source. The forest was alive with a hunger that was palpable, and with each heartbeat, she could feel its weight pressing down on her chest. Would she find Jake before the woods consumed her too? Or would she become another whisper among the shadows? What if they were waiting for her? What if they weren't finished feasting yet? Claire's pulse thundered in her ears, each beat echoing the frantic rhythm of her thoughts. The mist thickened, clawing at her ankles, and cold fingers of dread locked her in place. She needed to move not just for her own sake, but for Jake. "Mommy!" The cry again, a pitiful wail that slashed through the eerie silence. "I'm coming, baby!" she shouted, though with each word, a chill across her back felt like the forest's response, a warning for the path she chose. She pressed on, feet pounding against the damp earth, her breath short and sharp. The shadows darted out of reach, flickering in and out, teasing her with glimpses of movement that made her stomach churn. The trees swayed above her, branches like twisted fingers against a sky that was now too dark to penetrate. In her mind, each pair of eyes hidden in the brush haunted her. Were they watching? Waiting? She felt their hunger whisper against her skin, a promise of something sinister lurking just beneath her perception. With a sudden rush of urgency, she bolted forward, heart racing faster than her feet, following the sound of her son's cries. "Jake, where are you?" she pleaded, but her voice felt small against the chaos unfolding around her. The laughter erupted again, wrapping around her like a tight embrace, smothering her hopes. She didn't dare look back. The weight on her shoulders threatened to crush her even further, and the very ground quaked beneath her desperate flight. The fog coiled tighter, a living thing in the night, and sharp roots snared at her ankles, tripping her. She stumbled, but regained her footing, sheer will refusing to give way. Every twist of the forest twisted her sanity, each path a fork in her fate. The whispers grew louder, agitated, a dissonance of hissing taunts that reverberated in her skull. "Leave her, take the boy," they beckoned, guiding her deeper into the black heart of the woods. Panic gripped her chest. "No, I want to leave him," she howled defiantly, the words spilling from her like raw courage ignited by undeniable fear. Despite her resolve, small pockets of terror opened around her. Eyes watching, waiting. She felt it again, the tang of cold breath on her neck. Was something trailing her? Watching. A flicker amidst the shadows caught her attention movement. "Jake!" she shouted, rushing forward, hope illuminating the darkness for just a heartbeat. But the clearing revealed only more mist. Desperation clawed at her throat. "Please," she wept, knees shaking as she bent to the ground, arms wrapping around her head as sounds swarmed around her. "Let him go?" Then she heard a cough nearby, ragged and cracked. It was Jake. But something was off, Mommy. He was closer now, voice distorted, pulling her towards a twisted mass of brush and thorns. A silhouette appeared, small and frightened, lost in the gloom. "Mommy, help me!" She lunged forward, breaking through the barricade of brambles. But when she reached the other side, the figure loomed large, hunched low, eyes reflecting the faint light with a fierce intensity. It was doe-like, something human yet grotesquely inhuman. "Jake?" she gasped, horror stealing her breath. The laughter returned, menacing and cruel as she took a trembling step back. "Join us," it cooed, fingers elongated, beckoning her closer to an abyss of grinning shadows swirling around. Panic surged as Claire's mind screamed warnings, primal instincts clashing with desire to save her son. "Mom!" The familiar voice twisted again, revealing itself as part of the web of deceit. "Mommy, please, help me." In that moment, she was faced with a stark choice: her son or herself, and the forest's true hunger began to swallow every last beam of hope. What if there was no Jake at all? What if the feast was just beginning, and she was the main course? Claire's heart raced as she locked eyes with the grotesque figure, its haunting visage blurring the line between reality and nightmare. The laughter, sharp and echoing, prickled her skin. She was caught in a whirlpool of dread, questioning everything she had ever known about motherhood, about love. "Jake, is that really you?" she stammered, her voice trembling. The creature's eyes, so eerily similar to her son's, shimmered with a malevolent light. "It's me, Mommy," it chirped, the words chilling her blood, revealing a truth she wasn't yet ready to face. The shadows thickened, pulsating with a life of their own, like they were breathing alive. Claire took a step back, her instincts screaming at her to run, to escape this abomination that wore her child's face like a mask. Yet, the pull of that familiar voice bound her feet to the ground. "Help me, Mommy, please." It was desperate. It was pleading. That plea cut deeper than the fear that tangled her heart. With a sharp breath, Claire forced hesitance aside. She swallowed her terror and began to move toward the creature, driven by the primal urge to protect. "Stay still, baby. I'm coming." She reached out, but the air around her seemed to constrict, slowing her movement. The shadows danced closer, whispering fervently, join us," their voices entwined into an eerie lullaby, each note coaxing her mind to surrender. Confusion gripped her thoughts. Was she really seeing Jake? It couldn't be. A soft laugh burst from the creature, resonating like a jagged shard against her fear. "Join us, Claire." It beckoned again. "It hurts less this way," each syllable twisted within her, inviting her into darkness, the more she hesitated. "No, you're not my son," she screamed, ripping her gaze away from the nightmarish reflection. She spun on her heel, her feet finding purpose in flight. As she double-backed through the thickets, claws of mist snatched at her ankles, pulling violently, threatening to drag her back into the depths of despair. "Mommy!" The cry echoed once more, fainter this time, lost in the endless expanse of fog and shadow. With frantic breaths, she clawed through the dense gloom, desperation overtaking her thoughts. "I have to find him. I have to keep him safe." Claire's own screams began to dissolve into the oppressive shroud surrounding her, merging with the mocking laughter that pierced the night. Each muffled chuckle hollowed out her resolve, gnawing at her will to escape this haunted nightmare. Suddenly, the sounds around her shifted. The laughter faded, replaced by a cacophony of whispers. "She will join us soon," they echoed relentlessly. Vibrating through her core, as Claire stumbled ahead. She spotted a faint glow seeping through the fog, like a beacon. Hope surged within her. "Jake!" she called into the darkness, racing toward the light. But as she approached, the glow morphed and flickered, revealing a grotesque scene, a mass of shadowy figures, all writhing and contorting, faces twisted in eternal anguish. And there, in the center, a child-sized form lay still, illuminated under the grim light. "No!" Claire shrieked, lunging forward, eyes wide with horror. The shadows converged around her, eager and ravenous, their laughter returning once more, dark and mingled with despair. Join us," she faltered for just a heartbeat, overwhelmed by the weight of her choices, by the pain looming like a storm cloud. The shadows throbbed, their icy fingers stretching toward her. Was this it? Was this the end? The whispers crescendoed into a deafening howl, shaking her very soul. Perhaps the dead didn't haunt the living after all. Perhaps it was the living who haunted themselves with the choices they made. With a final scream, Claire tore herself from the grip of despair, launching toward the child-sized figure. Would she reach it in time? Or would she be consumed by the darkness surrounding her? Just another lost whisper in the abyss. And then, in the heartbeat of silence that followed, she felt the icy embrace around her slip away. But was it truly gone? As she grasped desperately for the truth, a chilling thought gnawed at her. What if the choice between love and survival wasn't hers to make at all? Claire's fingers brushed against something warm, smooth, and unmistakably solid. Surging hope flared within her as she pulled the child-shaped figure into her embrace. Tears of relief mixed with desperation streamed down her face. "Jake, it's really you," she gasped, feeling the familiar heartbeat beneath the soft fabric. But when she glanced down, horror gripped her anew. The child's face turned up to hers, but it wasn't Jake. It was the same grotesque imitation, the wide eyes, the wide grin that made her skin crawl. This thing was neither child nor demon, but an unsettling blend of both, mocking her as it echoed her anguish. No. Claire stumbled backward, dropping the thing. It tumbled to the ground, giggling disturbingly. "You can't be real. You're not my son." It cocked its head, a sickening tilt that only deepened her dread. "But I am your son. Remember the fun we had? The games we played?" It stretched out a finger, drawing patterns in the air as shadows danced around them. The forest had transformed, a storm of darkness swirled, battling the faint glow that had lured her in. Tendrils of fog closed in, creeping toward her with malicious intent. The mocking laughter of the shadows echoed, wrapping around her like a noose. Join us," with her back against a moss-covered tree. Claire felt the weight of the world pressing in, squeezing memories from her thoughts, a warm hug, bedtime stories, Jake's laughter echoing in the halls of their home. "Jake," she whispered, heart pounding, struggling against the encroaching tide of despair. "Mommy." The creature's voice cut through her like a knife, but it was hollow, devoid of the warmth she remembered. "Don't you love me?" It swayed closer, each step tauntingly slow. "Stay away," she shouted, her voice breaking. She fought against her instincts, but her body remained paralyzed, gripped by invisible chains. The only way out was to confront the shadow within herself. "I do love you." But where was the true Jake hidden beneath this facade? The laughter flared, rising in volume until it drowned out her desperate thoughts. Claire squeezed her eyes shut, fighting to block out the noise, but her son's face floated before her. "Help me." He would never respond like this, would he? With newfound resolve, she opened her eyes and focused on the creature. "What do you want?" she demanded. "What do you want from me?" Its laughter stopped abruptly. The figure paused, tilting its head as if considering her words. I want you to join us. To be whole again. To let go of your fear." Shadows thickened, swirling like a storm cloud above her, drawing her deeper into despair where hope barely flickered. "But I will never join you." The rejection erupted from her soul. She ran, pushing herself through the density of fog, charging toward the memories that kept her heart beating. But it wasn't long before the ground beneath her shifted as dark figures loomed closer, lunging in from the sides. She stumbled, falling hard against the earth. A sorrowful wail echoed from behind her, sending a chill through her veins. "Mommy!" It wasn't just a call. It was a plea filled with infinite longing, a desperate cry that made her blood run cold. Claire swung around, instinctively reaching for the fading sound. But all she saw were shadows enveloping her, their eyes lit with malicious glee. Join us, they hissed. Each word coiled with sinister intent. As her heart raced, a glimmer caught her eye atop a nearby hill, another flicker of light. It felt warm and inviting, stark against the cold that coiled around her. "Jake!" she cried once more, now torn between the tightening grip of despair and the flickering hope of rescue. Could she fight her way to that light? Or would the darkness swallow her whole, leaving only echoes of a shattered image of her son? Desperation marked her every breath, but the woods remained unforgiving. Just as she bent to push herself back to her feet, cold fingers closed around her ankle, dragging her back into the gloom. "You can't leave us," the shadows chanted, an ominous harmony of longing and despair. A scream built in her throat, but what would it matter? Would anybody hear the cries of a woman lost in darkness? As she felt herself slipping away, Claire struggled fiercely against the pull, clinging to her fleeting vision of the light. "Please, Jake," she shouted, and it was then that an unexpected sound pierced the cacophony, a small voice, familiar yet distant, breaking through the fog. "Mommy, please come home," Claire gasped. What if this time it was real? What if the true Jake was still waiting for her, lost somewhere in this abyss? She laced her fingers tightly, preparing to fight with everything she had left, determined to find out what lay behind that pleading voice. What if she was not just fighting for survival, but to reclaim her son from the clutches of nightmare? Claire strained against the darkness, heart pounding like a frantic drum. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, yet the light atop the hill beckoned with a warmth that cut through the suffocating cold. Shadows writhed around her, taunting, threatening to drown her in their despair. "Mommy!" The voice was impossibly close now, woven through the chilling breeze. If she could just understand, if she could tap into that glimmer of hope, she might save Jake. But the shadows tightened their grip, pulling at her limbs, dragging her deeper into the abyss with every anguished heartbeat. "Jake!" she cried out again, desperation clawing at her throat. Just a flicker of hope, that was all she needed. The edges of her vision blurred, everything spinning like a dark whirlpool. The laughter and desperate cries converged, creating a chorus of chaos that echoed her greatest fears. But amidst the chaos, she could hear it again. "Come home." It was softer now, a whisper barely breaking through the cacophony. Claire pressed her palms against her ears, fighting against the tide of despair, forcing herself to concentrate. She needed to remember. "Let him go," she shouted, but the air responded with nothing but chilling silence. She fought against the pull of the ground. "No," Claire vehemently screamed, each word slicing through the darkness. "I want to abandon you." Then, she saw a flicker of movement within the shadows, something small darting just out of reach. Her breath hitched. Could it be Jake? Or another grotesque imitation trying to lure her in? Fear warred with hope in her chest, making her dizzy. "Mommy," the voice again, filled with longing and desperation. "Where are you?" she cried, trying to pinpoint its origin. Every shadow morphed into twisted faces, each one leering, mocking her. The soft sounds of the forest were drowned out completely. Suddenly, the mocking laughter erupted once more, shaking the very leaves from the trees. It rose and fell, echoing in a dreadful symphony of malice. Claire stumbled back, stumbling over roots that reached like skeletal hands. She gasped, feeling weightless, almost like she was part of the shadows that surrounded her. "No." Claire shook her head, willing herself to think clearly. "I will not let you take me." The forest darkened further, deeper than pitch, but the flicker of light persisted. She gathered her breaths, steeling herself, then began to march through the entity's grasp, forcing herself toward that distant glow. As she drew closer, the shadows sighed, their laughter morphing into something guttural, a low rumble of discontent. "You can't escape, Claire," they hissed, their tones seductive, wrapping around her body, intertwining with hers. promising solace if only she would give in. But she knew she couldn't relent. She wouldn't allow darkness to claim her. "Jake!" Claire screamed again, heart racing, drawing on every ounce of will. She called out for him, pushing through the fog. And as if her voice had broken a spell, the shadows recoiled, weakened by her determination. A pathway emerged, lit by that ever-present glow. Each stride toward it felt heavy, but she pushed onward, fear transformed into fierce resolution. Just as she reached the hill's crest, the warmth enveloped her like the embrace she longed for. But before she could revel in it, a hand shot out from the darkness, gripping her wrist like ice. "You can't leave." A voice shrieked. 1,000 voices echoed, an unbearable shrill chorus, clawing at her mind. "Mommy!" came Jake's voice once more, filled with urgency and fragile hope. Claire was torn, but she channeled all her strength. "No, I will find you," she shouted, trying to shake off the dark hands grasping at her. And then, just beyond the threshold of light, an image materialized. Jake, his face streaked with tears, reaching out to her. "Help me, Mommy, please." She lunged forward, desperate to close the distance, heart pounding, but the shadows tightened their grasp, pulling her back toward the cold abyss. "Join us," they hissed, their voices now a chilling symphony. In that moment, Claire's heart raced with the harrowing realization. Could the shadows be lying? Was Jake truly lost to her forever? She felt herself slipping, torn between the reality of her son's tortured cry and the numbing embrace of darkness. Could the flickering light hold the promise of salvation, or was it merely another deception? "Mommy, I need you," the echo reverberated through her. In that moment of anguish, Claire prepared to make the most dangerous choice of all. Would she embrace the abyss or risk everything for the flicker of hope? Her breath came sharp as the sky above darkened, thunder rumbling ominously in the distance. The final choice awaited. Would Claire plunge into the unknown to seek her son, or will she succumb to the shadows forever? The shadows twisted tighter around Claire, as if sensing her wavering resolve. Every instinct screamed at her to escape, yet the light, now pulsing with an ethereal glow, called out to her. How could something so inviting be right? The darkness was alive, hungry, its laughter echoing in her head, dizzying her. "Jake!" she cried out again, her voice rising in desperation. "Just hold on. I'm coming." Tears streamed down her face, blurring her vision. The vibrant picture of her son's face was etched in her mind as she fought against the grip of the shadows. But the darkness was relentless, crawling up her legs, coiling around her waist. "Surrender," the voices whispered, 1,000 seductive tones intertwining, clawing at her heart as they spoke of peace, of freedom from the pain. "Join us, it will be easier now." It came out as a guttural shout, ripping through the clutches of despair. She could feel the ground shaking beneath her, the shadows hissing in anger. "I won't abandon you, Jake." With all her strength, Claire lunged toward the sliver of light. As she did, the hand holding her wrist seemed to slip momentarily, and she caught a glimpse of the glow reflecting off her son's glossy eyes, pleading and terrified. But the darkness surged, pulling her back, and for a brief moment, the relentless grip faltered, releasing her long enough that she staggered forward. "Mommy!" Jake cried, and she could see his little arms reaching, trembling with fear. She took a step, heart pounding strongly, desperation curling in her chest. Then the whispers grew louder, becoming a deafening roar. "Let him go," they screeched, their tone bitter and cruel. The shadows writhed, forming grotesque shapes that danced around her, mocking her with twisted faces of her fears. "You can't save him. You can't even save yourself." Suddenly, the air turned cold, and Claire could see the shadows forming a wall, closing in around Jake. "Mommy, please." He was crying, terror in his voice as he thrashed against the dark forces that had seized him. Time stretched painfully as Claire's world narrowed to the sound of her son's cries. She could no longer hear the mocking laughter or the sinister whispers. All that remained was the raw voice of her child. "Help me." In that heartbeat of clarity, Claire understood. The shadows thrived on despair, willing her to give up, to succumb to their malicious games. She felt a flicker of rage rising within her, the primal maternal instinct. "You will not take him," she roared, swinging her free arm toward the grasping shadows, Feeling the air crackle around her, with a fierce determination, she charged forward, the resistance crumbling as her will collided with the darkness. The light welcomed her, wrapping around her like a protective shroud, sheer warmth and strength fueling her advance. "Mommy!" Jake's voice, filled with relief and hope, pierced through her heart. She was so close now. But as she surged into the light, the shadows screamed in agony, their forms dissipating, fading, yet clawing back one last time. "You can't escape us, Claire!" they shrieked, their anger brewing like a storm. Just as she grasped Jake's small hand, the world trembled. The ground shifted beneath her, and the light began to dim, flickering like a dying flame. "No, no, I am not letting you go again," she screamed with everything she had. A howl erupted in the forest, sending tremors through the air, darkness swirling ominously around them. Claire locked eyes with Jake, but a chilling laughter erupted, shaking them both. As the connection secured, Claire felt the shadows begin to pull at her, wrapping around her feet once again, dragging her back toward the abyss. "Claire!" The chorus of voices resonated, devious and furious, echoing ominously in the air. In that moment, the reality crashed down. She had rescued Jake, but the darkness was not done with her yet. How would she fight it off now? "Mommy, help!" Jake whimpered, his eyes wide with terror as the ground beneath them shook. The silence had returned, and Claire felt the chills seep deeper into her bones. They stood on the brink of fragile hope, fighting against the consuming shadows. And as the last remnants of light blinked out, Claire had to make her choice. Fight back against an enemy that had known her fears far too well, or dive into the encroaching void. What lay ahead could very well be the final battle, but was she strong enough to face what awaited? The thrumming of the darkness intensified, a chaotic symphony of rage and despair enveloping them both. Claire gritted her teeth, defiance surging through her veins like fire. She squeezed Jake's hand tighter, grounding herself in the warmth and fragility of his small body. This was her anchor, her reason to fight. "Stay close," she shouted, though the words tasted weak against the howling shadows. The ground heaved as if alive, tossing them in a cruel dance. She felt the gnawing tug of the void beneath her, as if it were trying to swallow her whole. With a frenzied urgency, Claire turned away from the encroaching darkness, scanning desperately for a path, any path. The fading light glimmered sporadically, revealing twisted trees that screamed with distorted faces. The whispers rose again, taunting her, looping back to her haunting memories. "You can't escape. You don't belong here. You can't save him." "Shut up," Claire roared, pulling Jake closer as she stumbled forward. Every footfall felt like an echo in a void, a reminder of the terrifying uncertainty that lay ahead. They needed to move. They had to escape this place. Jake's eyes darted around, filled with terror. "Mommy, I can't breathe. Just hold on." Claire's heart raced, every beat pushing her forward despite the encroaching darkness. She focused on the sound of Jake's breath, a soft reminder that he was still there. It fueled her resolve. Suddenly, the ground lurched violently, sending them both crashing to the cold earth. Claire's breath hitched as she flung an arm protectively over Jake. She peered into the opaque darkness, searching for any hint of what was happening. Then she saw it. Something emerged from the shadows, writhing and glimmering sinisterly, a funnel of darkness with glowing eyes glowing like embers. It lurked, watching, waiting, an otherworldly presence that radiated malice. "I see you," Claire murmured, her voice trembling as she faced the emerging horror. "You think I'll let you take him? You're wrong." The shadow smirked, its many eyes twinkling with unholy glee. "You think you can resist forever, Claire? You don't understand. You can't shield him from what you really are, or what you've done." A chill gripped her heart, slicing through the desperation. Memories of hurt, moments where she had felt weak, all the time she had doubted herself, each one clawed at her consciousness. The darkness thrived on her fear, twisting it into knives aimed at her heart. "No," Claire screamed, earning a glance of surprise from the shadow. "You don't get to have a say in this. I won't let the past steal my future." In a desperate lunge, she plunged deeper into the light, pulling Jake along even as the shadows hissed and lashed out, stinging her with icy tendrils. The light flickered, revealing a distant glow that beckoned like a beacon. "There," she gasped, pointing as adrenaline surged anew. "We can make it. Mommy." Jake's voice wavered, a shrill note of fear, but he followed, trusting. The two of them ran, limbs pumping, dodging as shadowy claws reached out, snapping at them, but the shadows screamed. "You can't escape who you are, Claire. Your weaknesses belong to the darkness." Each step they took felt heavier, as though the shadows bled fear into her feet. The chase felt endless, and Claire's body screamed for rest. Yet, she pressed on, fueled by a determination to protect Jake at all costs. No matter the cost to herself that as they approached the light, the world around them shifted, a strange phosphorescence igniting the mist, slowly pushing back the shadows that had chased them. Claire's heart pounded with hope, but alongside it twisted a gnawing dread. Could they truly escape the darkness? Just as they reached the edge, the light engulfed them, blinding and warm. Claire breathed out in relief, but it cut short as a horrified scream erupted from Jake. "Mommy!" Claire turned, and the nightmarish figure emerged from the dark once more, shoving through the luminous barrier with a menacing grin. In that moment, she realized they hadn't escaped yet, not at all. "Fight!" Claire had hissed, voice gravelly and chilling. "It's just the beginning." The light flickered, shadows swirling ominously, and Claire's heart sank. How would she confront a terror that followed them even into light? Would the darkness finally claim them for good, or would her love prove powerful enough to fight back? As the light dimmed, Claire realized they faced more than just shadows. They were battling her deepest fears. What would she uncover before the final confrontation? And could she truly protect Jake when the darkness knew her so well? The darkness surged, a relentless tide of despair wrapping around Claire and Jake. The sinister figure loomed close, chilling laughter echoing through the air like shattering glass. Claire tightened her grip on Jake's hand, the warmth of his presence a desperate tether to reality. She could feel the shadows closing in, their whispers thrumming like a distant heartbeat, begging her to yield. "No." Her voice rang out, fierce and unwavering. "I will fight for him." In that moment, a flicker of defiance sparked within her, igniting the remnants of hope buried beneath the weight of fear. She had fought too hard, sacrificed too much to let despair claim her son. Claire turned to Jake, urgency igniting her voice. "We have to find the light, baby. Stay close to me." With renewed vigor, Claire forged ahead, moving through the swirling mass of darkness. Shadows lunged and snapped at her ankles, but Claire wouldn't let them falter her will. "Stay away," she roared, kicking out as if to physically repel the encroaching gloom. "You will not take him. Not today." The sinister figure snarled, creeping closer, a specter of all her self-doubt and fear, swirling around her in a feast of malice. "You're weak, Claire. You'll never escape who you are." "No." She felt a surge of anger. "I am not weak." It was a furious declaration that emanated from her core, a primal response to the darkness surrounding them. When she turned, she whispered to Jake, "You have to trust me. We can push through this together. Just hold on tight." Jake nodded, fear glimmering in his eyes mixed with the flicker of an unyielding trust. They darted through the night, Claire's heart pounding in a rhythm matched by her resolve. The shadows clung to them like a second skin, whispering insidiously, "Join us, Claire. Give in to the darkness. It will be easier," but that same darkness had already tried to take everything from her. As bitterness collided with love, she shouted into the abyss, "I've already lost too much." There is nothing easier than fighting for those we love. You don't know what love is. With her declaration, a rush of light exploded from within. The shadows recoiled momentarily, a shuddering hesitation in their collective advance. It was a moment, just a fraction of a second, but it filled Claire with an exhilarating sense of power. "This is our moment," she cried, charging forward with Jake beside her, feeling the barrier of gloom thin as they ran. With each footfall, the whispers began to fade, behind them like dying echoes. The figures melted away into wisps of air, lost to the resolve that pulsed through Claire's veins. They reached a clearing where the trees parted, revealing a soft golden glow seeping from beyond. It was a portal illuminated by warmth and familiarity. "Look, Jake," Claire urged, hurrying toward the light as the darkness faded further behind. "We can do this together." As they approached the warm glow, Claire felt an overwhelming surge of love for Jake, eclipsing every doubt, fear, and pain. And then, as if the woods themselves were responding, she felt magic ripple through the air, a protective shield tapping into the primal love that every mother possessed. The shadowy figure reemerged, raging and demented. You think this is the end? You can't escape. The darkness will always be a part of you, Claire. They stood on the cusp of the light, her heart thundering. Without hesitation, Claire thrust her arm forward. We choose love, and love conquers you. In that split second, the warmth exploded outward, flooding the clearing. The shadows recoiled, shrieking, twisting, and writhing in agony, battling against the radiant light. Claire felt a power course within her, a radiant strength that had always been hers to wield. As light surged, illuminating every shadow, Claire screamed with everything she had, "You will not claim my son. Go back to the dark." Amidst a deluge of brilliance, the tangled shadows screamed one last time, voices merging into a cacophony of rage as they were enveloped by the light. Claire and Jake emerged unscathed, surrounded by warmth and safety, the forest falling silent behind them. They stumbled into a meadow, the moon casting gentle beams on swaying grass beneath their feet. It felt as if the very air had transformed, fragrant and exhilarating. "Mommy?" Jake's voice broke the stillness. He looked up, eyes wide. "Is it over?" "Yes, baby." Claire knelt beside him, tears cascading down her cheeks. "We made it. You're safe." Staring into her son's bright eyes, Claire felt the burdens of the past lift, carried away by the gentle breeze that whispered promises of new beginnings. Their victory was fragile, but it shimmered brightly in her heart. She wrapped her arms tightly around Jake, holding him close. Despair already becoming a wisp of memory, as dawn began to unveil itself on the horizon, painting the sky with hues of gold and pink. A new day whispered possibilities. Claire stood, looking one last time toward the dark woods that had tried to claim them, and she knew it held no more power over them. "Let us go home, Jake," she said softly, gripping his hand tightly as they walked forward into the light. And as they stepped into the brilliance of a new day, Claire understood that no shadows could invade her heart again as long as they held on to love. Now it's your turn. If you enjoyed this thrilling conclusion, you need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. We promise we have more heart-pounding tales waiting. Smash that like button now. It truly helps spread the word to other story lovers. And I'm dying to hear what you think. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.